Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Good morning. Hold on a second. I have my audio is all screwed up here, and I have my headphones plugged into the right spot. I have a new audio interface, and I was testing it yesterday. I forgot to switch it back. Let's switch that back to the Yeti. The Focusrite's not quite ready because I need a stand for the microphone. I don't know if it could be a better microphone or not. It's not a special microphone or anything. Anyways, how's it going? Let's go into the charts here. Excuse me, man. All right. Well, yesterday in the Treasuries, we had a pretty strong sell. You can see there. There was some buying and everything, but man, they wanted it to go down. So here in the European session, there was some news, European manufacturing news, and they don't all release at the same time. And you can see here, the French numbers were good, but the German numbers were bad. And so it was mixed, and we came back to where we were. Kind of interesting. And then in the equities, they actually moved on it too a little bit up, a little bit back, but overall they're still pushing up. So it appears that the pressure may still be to the downside. Hard to say. It's a interesting market. Well, let's just say that. I'm not seeing, well, there's a little bit of large institutional action out there today, but we got a bunch of news. So we've got, where are we here? Core durable goods and unemployment claims in, 13 minutes or so. And then, isn't the ECB, the ECB press conference, yes, starts then as well. So we might have trouble going anywhere, So that's basically where we're at. Let's see here. Do we have? Oh, I thought we would have the link, but I guess not yet. Oh, I do. I got something new to show you guys. This should. I think that. Made a new significant improvement, let's just say. Oh, how come I'm not getting... Oh, because nobody said anything. We're fine. No, I've made a significant improvement. I don't know if you can see... Oh, I have to turn it down here. Can you see... Oh, new keyboard. Yay, new keyboard. Oh. That was more difficult to move my camera than I thought. That was kind of weird. Oh, I guess I do want it about right there. All right, good deal. But here's the thing: is it is way quieter. So I will type some stuff here. I don't know. I mean, you can still hear it. You can still hear it, but is the female bot still down? I don't know. You know what? So I have to eat some food here. Started a little earlier because my birds were screaming at me, and I was like, well, I don't want to wake my wife up, so I'm just going to go into the office and finish it. But then it was 6:15. Yeah, look at them buying into this. Okay. Well, yeah, so I have some food. I'm going to eat this food, and then we're going to test the bot. I made it fixed. I think I have a fix to it, but it's hard for me to test. And I tried running it last night, but it couldn't get past the, your rate limited. So we'll see if my fix actually works. There's probably some syntax errors in there that we need to fix. Can you reset the ES DOM if it doesn't matter for you? I'd like to see what happens. I don't have Jigsaw, I have Sierra, and I want to compare. you want to so there's different ways of resetting it, right? So if I reset the ESDOM with this one right here, then it just clears out all of these in here, right? You can also do the big reset, and that will reset this profile over here. But it's not something that I use all too often, to be honest. I used to use it a lot in the beginning, but now I don't really care. Yep, that's it, I think. Yeah, you can reset this one too, but I don't use it. Okay, so let me eat, and then we'll test the bot, right? So I'm just reading Twitter here. UK Prime Minister Johnson to convene a cabinet meeting at 3 p.m. London time to discuss options on Brexit deal or general election. That could be significant. New York Fed accepts 45 billion of 62 billion in bids in 14-day repo op. That's interesting. So they didn't accept all of the bids that they put out there. Beijing won't raise U.S. agricultural purchases until year 2 of the trade deal. I'm a little weirded out by the action of the past few days because it seems to me like there's some significant reason for people to be buying treasuries, that the institutions would want them. And because there's a cash shortage, they should be going up, and yet they haven't. We've been going down. And whenever we move up, we run into like huge resistance. Seems to me like probably a very, very large country or something is keeping us down, don't you think? I don't know. Let's consider that for a moment while we're sitting here. All right, so here they come out for the press conference. I want to know where the central banks get this great music. I want this music. I've been trying to make music like this. I just can't quite. Just don't quite get it. I'm going to try and use this as inspiration, though. I really like this stuff. This would be great to use in the channel, like when we're waiting. I don't know if it's loud enough for you guys. It looks like really soft, but turn up just a little bit more. And let's pull up our robot here, huh? See if that runs. I thought it was your elevator music. No, I don't have elevator music that great. Everything on my channel is like stuff that I've done. So, like the music that I've used. Unhandled promise rejection warning. The data is not defined at limiter schedule then.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Vice President and I are very pleased to welcome you to our press conference. We will now report on the outcome
Unhandled
of
promise rejection. I think that means it didn't work.
By the Commission Vice President, Mr. Dombrovskis, and the incoming President, Ms. Lagarde. Based on our regular economic and monetary analysis, we decided to keep the key ECB interest rates unchanged. We expect them to remain at their present or lower levels until we have seen the inflation outlook robustly converge to a level sufficiently close to, but below 2% within our projection horizon, and such convergence being consistently reflected in underlying inflation dynamics. As decided at our last meeting in September, we will restart net purchases under our asset purchase program at a monthly pace of 20 billion euro as from November 1st. We expect them to run for as long as necessary to reinforce the accommodative impact of our policy rates and to end shortly before we start raising the key ECB interest rates. We also intend to continue reinvesting in full the principal payments from maturing securities purchased under the APP for an extended period of time past the date when we start raising the key ECB interest rates, and in any case, for as long as necessary, to maintain favorable liquidity conditions and an ample degree of monetary accommodation. The Governing Council reiterated the need for a highly accommodative stance of monetary policy for a prolonged period of time to support underlying inflation pressures and headline inflation developments over the medium term. In particular, the Governing Councils for our guidance will ensure that financial conditions adjust in accordance with changes to the inflation outlook.
Maybe it's because it's not a promise.
In any case, the Governing Council continues to stand ready to adjust all of its instruments as appropriate to ensure that inflation moves towards its aim in a sustained manner in line with its commitment to symmetry. The incoming data since the last Governing Council meeting in early September confirm our previous assessment of a protracted weakness in the euro area growth dynamics, the persistence of prominent downside risks, and muted inflation pressures. At the same time, ongoing employment growth and increase in wages continue to underpin the resilience of the euro area economy. The comprehensive package of policy measures that we decided at our last meeting provides substantial monetary stimulus, which will contribute to a further easing in borrowing conditions for firms and households. This will support the euro area expansion, the ongoing build-up of domestic price pressures, and thus the sustained convergence of inflation to our medium-term inflation aim. Let me now explain our assessment in greater detail, starting with the economic analysis.
Hmm.
Euro area real GDP growth was confirmed at 0.2% quarter on quarter in the second quarter of 2019, following a rise of 0.4% in the previous quarter. Incoming economic data and survey information continue to point to moderate but positive growth in the second half of this year.
Oh.
This slowdown in growth mainly reflects the ongoing weakness of international trade in an environment of persistent global uncertainties, which continue to weigh on the euro area manufacturing sector and are dampening the investment growth. At the same time, the services and construction sectors remain resilient, despite some moderation. The euro area expansion is supported by favorable financing conditions, further employment gains in conjunction with rising wages, the mildly expansionary euro area fiscal stance, and the ongoing, albeit somewhat slower, growth in global activity.
A bit somewhat slower growth.
The risks surrounding the euro area growth outlook remain on the downside. In particular, these risks pertain to the prolonged presence of uncertainties related to geopolitical factors, rising protectionism, and vulnerabilities in emerging markets. Euro area annual HICP inflation decreased from 1% in August 2019 to 0.8% in September, reflecting lower food and energy price inflation. On the basis of current futures prices
I don't think it
oil,
likes my version of
headline inflation is likely to decline slightly further before rising again at the end of the year. Measures of underlying inflation remained generally muted, and indicators of inflation expectations stand at low levels. While labor cost pressures have strengthened amid tighter labor markets,
where do I set
the
that?
weaker growth momentum is delaying their pass-through to inflation. Over the medium term, inflation is expected to increase, supported by our monetary policy measures, the ongoing economic expansion, and robust wage growth. Turning to the monetary analysis, broad money M3 growth increased to 5.7% in August 2019 after 5.1% in July. Sustained rates of broad money growth reflect ongoing bank credit creation for the private sector and low opportunity costs of holding M3. The narrow monetary aggregate M1 continues to be the main contributor to broad money growth on the components side. The growth of loans to firms and households remained solid, benefiting from the continued pass-through of our accommodative monetary policy stance to bank lending rates. The annual growth rate of loans to non-financial corporations increased to 4.3% in August from 4% in July, while the annual growth rate of loans to households remained unchanged at 3.4% in August. The Euro Area Bank Lending Survey for the third quarter of 2019 indicates a slight easing of credit standards and increasing demand for loans to our households, while demand for loans to firms remained broadly stable. Our accommodative monetary policy stance will help to safeguard favorable bank lending conditions and will continue to support access to financing, in particular for small and medium-sized enterprises. To sum up, a cross-check of the outcome of economic analysis with the signals coming from the monetary analysis confirmed that an ample degree of monetary accommodation is still necessary for the continued sustained convergence of inflation to levels that are below but close to 2% over the medium term. In order to reap the full benefits from our monetary policy
In order to
measures,
rep.
other policy areas must contribute more decisively to raising the longer-term growth
Oh, we're
potential,
pushing up.
supporting aggregate demand.
Maybe we
at the
actually will
current
get a buy
juncture,
day today.
and reducing vulnerabilities. The implementation of structural policies in euro area countries needs to be substantially stepped up to boost euro area productivity and growth potential, reduce structural unemployment, and increase resilience. The 2019 country-specific recommendations should serve as the relevant signpost. Regarding fiscal policies, the mildly expansionary euro area fiscal stance is currently providing some support to economic activity. In view of the weakening economic outlook and the continued prominence of downside risks, governments with fiscal space should act in an effective and timely manner. In countries where public debt is high, governments need to pursue prudent policies and meet
It's telling me
structural
that there's
balance
problems
targets,
with
which
it
will
in
create the conditions for automatic stabilizers to operate freely. All countries should intensify their efforts to achieve a more growth-friendly composition of public finances. Likewise, the transparent and consistent implementation of the European Union's fiscal and economic governance framework over time and across countries remains essential to bolster the resilience of the euro area economy. Improving the functioning of economic and monetary union remains a priority. The Governing Council welcomes the ongoing work and urges further specific and decisive steps to complete the banking union and the capital markets union. And now we are at your disposal for questions.
CNBC. I have two questions. The IMF just at their last meeting raised concerns about the effects of low interest rates on the financial system. So my first question would be, what makes you so confident that more of negative rates and quantitative easing or asset purchase program is doing more good than
Using
harm?
it wrong somehow.
And my second question would be on your legacy and whether you feel it's being tarnished by the recent discussion, which were unusually public, about the rift in the Governing Council and the disagreement about the policy action taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, the IMF didn't say that negative rates are ineffective. As a matter of fact, the overall assessment of negative rates is generally positive. For us, it's very positive. It's been a very positive experience. Negative rates have stimulated the economy.
The negative interest rate thing is interesting because many market participants think that they're very bad, but the central banks all seem to be saying that it's effective.
Potential side effects of negative rates for very negative for a long time. The discussion didn't go into too much detail, but we are also aware of that, and we are monitoring these risks. I should say that so far, first of all, we should distinguish different categories: banks, insurance companies.
The problem is different market participants have different incentives,
the overall
right?
assessment has been clearly positive. In other words, the improvements in the economy have more than offset negative side effects from low rates. But it's the fact that we are monitoring constantly this is shown by our decision in early September of introducing a tiering system, which basically partly compensates the banks from the negative rates. Now, your second question, frankly, the answer is no. And we have discussions. Everybody has discussions. All jurisdictions have disagreements when monetary policy decisions come to be discussed. And these disagreements are often made public, often they are not. So I think it's not been the first time. So I've taken this as part and parcel of the ongoing debate and discussion.
Part and parcel.
Ms. Boufaki?
If I was working anywhere in politics, I don't think I would use that anywhere. Sorry, I'm not seeing everything because I'm trying to fix the bot.
Mr. President. The first one.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Wynn was trying to do something.
The Governing Council tasked the relevant Euro system committees with examining options for the size and composition of potential new net asset.
To me, the IMF will always mean the impossible mission force. Yeah.
These options, and even if the Governing Council.
Man, guys, I don't know why it doesn't take it. Maybe I just need to use a different library.
Given that the markets give the APP and firepower crucial.
Limiter, schedule,
what is your
function.
opinion on the options that could be considered in enlarging the APP? And my second question is looking forward. What do you see are the main risks from your risk radar that you can foresee
and what
for
was
the
it given
European
us
economy
for that?
and for the financial markets? In other words, what should we all worry about the most on the short-term and long-term horizon? Thank you.
Thank you. Since you're going back to the issue of voting and committees, let me just give you a few highlights. First of all, and I will read sentences from the public account, the account you've seen. So first,
Silly me, I think
members
I know why it
agreed
was
that the
giving that
further
error.
monetary policy stance was warranted. Okay. Then we had an open discussion about the choice of instruments best suited to address current challenges. So, and we give account of these discussions. Then we start going bit by bit, saying what sort of majority was for each part of the discussion. And we say a clear majority of Governing Council members supported the broad package of measures that was ultimately decided upon in September. A large majority of members agreed to change the modalities of the new series of TLTROs. All members concurred with continued reinvestment. Members generally agreed with the proposal to enhance the state-based component of the Governing Council forward guidance on interest rates. A clear majority of members agreed with the proposal to restart net purchases under the asset purchase program with the modalities that I've just explained. And a very large majority of members agreed with the proposal to lower the rate on the deposit facility by 10 basis points. Finally, a majority
Who's
of
this dude
members
talking? He
went
is
along
the
with
ECB
proposed
president.
introduction of the two-tier system
So
for
my recommendation is, until he's done talking, don't trade.
So no surprise that today, basically, the proposal
Because at any moment he
economy
could say something that screws your trade up.
The monetary policy stance went.
Man,
basically
I'm
through
not sure why he doesn't like it.
So there was no. So it's not surprising given these majorities.
This error
Now,
originated
coming to
either
your
by
point
throwing
about
inside
the
an async
committees,
function without a catch block,
let me again
or
go
rejecting a promise which
back
was not handled with a
to
catch.
the IS in July, where we tasked the committees with examining options, including ways to reinforce our forward guidance on policy rates, mitigating measures such as the design of a tiered system for
I
reserve
actually fixed
remuneration,
one error.
and options for the size and composition of potential new asset purchases. This is the
You
introduction.
cannot read
statement
property
in
items
July.
of undefined.
So, and then we have already gone through this on other occasions, but the function of the committees is to provide technical advice to the Governing Council. And that's what they did. And then the Governing Council, of course, decides as it deems appropriate. It's not the first time that the Governing Council has a
So
different
it's
mind.
actually
many
is
other
getting stuff,
times.
isn't it?
So, no surprises there. And it's all, in a sense, confirmed by the maintaining the monetary policy stance today. What are the main risks? Well,
There is
the
no
main risk
items in data.
from all viewpoints, but especially also from a financial stability viewpoint, is a downturn in the economy. and it's whether it's global or it's Eurozone. But that's,
Let's
I
see
think,
here.
would be the main risk from all viewpoints.
What if I do that?
From the side of convergence.
I'm gonna get it back. I'm
inflation,
fixing the robot voice.
Obviously, from the angle
I'm
of
making
maintaining
progress.
a high level of employment,
Didn't return
and of
anything.
economic activity, and of a
It's
nominal
because
wage
it
growth,
needs to be done
as we have
asynchronously.
seen today, and from the
Probably.
angle of financial stability itself, because clearly one of the great benefits that are that the banking sector, and actually all players in the financial system, had from this accommodative monetary policy was the extraordinary improvement in the quality of their credit, of their assets more generally, which comes with the recovery, which basically affected positively the profitability of the banking system. So, thank you.
Mr. Korani?
Thank you very much. Balázs Korányi from Reuters. Did Christine Lagarde take part in the discussion? Did she express views on monetary policy, and was she in full agreement with the ECB's policy stance? The second question is about what's been happening on the market since your September meeting.
I don't know enough
Interest
Node
rates have
here.
gone up, market-based inflation expectations have gone down. Are you worried about this? Is the market misreading your policy, or are you comfortable with what the markets are pricing in?
Thank you. No, Christine Lagarde didn't take part to the discussions, but she was there, and without taking part to discussions or the deliberations. On
Let's
your
see
second
here.
question,
I need to make this function
no,
async.
I don't think basically, well, let's ask ourselves, what was the main goal of the September monetary policy decisions? Was to cement the accommodative monetary policy stance that was embedded in the expectations as they had been affected by the weakening, regularly, continuously weakening medium-term outlook. And the Governing Council today, in the discussion, felt that this has been largely, very largely achieved. In other words, we saw the flattening of the yield curve. We saw the complete transmission of a lower DFR, deposit facility rate, into lower short-term rates.
I don't know,
What
guys.
we have observed there, it's partly due to the fact
Maybe I
that there
can't
may be a
fix
part
this
of these
today.
expectations which was not warranted by the weakening economic outlook, which went, in a sense, beyond the economic developments, which might have been disappointed. But it's a very small part. But the second and probably more important reason for the developments we've seen is the overall uncertainty. In one way, in a sense, one has the sense that somehow the lower likelihood of a hard Brexit or a cliff edge has improved the overall situation. On the other, the uncertainty is still there. And by the way, on this specific point, it's true that it's improved in the short term. The likelihood of having a cliff edge has gone down. At the same time, the medium-term uncertainty
maybe it is like this.
considered with concern.
Oh, maybe it is like this.
So, and at the same, and
Okay,
the
hold
rest
on.
of the
Hold on, I
geopolitical
think I get it.
uncertainty has
I think I
continued
understand.
to affect markets. So I would
Fingers
really,
crossed.
The market developments.
Ba-da-da-da.
I think actually, I
Ah,
don't
sweet.
think the market misread. Actually, the market showed that they understood.
I don't know why I feel
perfectly
like
well
we're
our
so
reaction was.
relieved there, but
Thank you.
so if I come back over here,
Sad? Thank you.
okay.
Mr. Draghi, the Bundesbank has recently said that they see a chance of a German recession this year. Given the discord on the Council, which you discussed earlier, does that eliminate or narrow your policy options where, I know you set rates for the whole of the Eurozone, but Germany as the biggest economy can't be ignored. Second question is
It's not doing
What's
it.
the question?
what policy, given the discord amongst policy governing council members, do you feel that you have the same number of options should
pulling the
Germany pull
messages
other
that
countries
time. It
into
pulled
some
messages,
kind of a
but it's
downturn?
not
The
actually
second question is,
doing the
given
thing.
that central bankers have become less popular with their governments, and I'm thinking in the U.S. as well, we've talked over the years about the G20 cooperation.
You're still on mute?
Linking together monetary policy, fiscal
What?
policy, inter-country and intra-country. Given what's happening in the
You
U.S.,
can
given
hear me
the
right now, right?
difficulties that central bankers are having with their own governments, can that cooperation be duplicated if there's another global downturn?
IQ is saying you're also on mute
No, your
until
first
the dude is
question,
done.
if any,
That's fine.
let me
That's
say
fine.
this.
Nothing's gonna happen until he's done.
Everything that's happened in September since our monetary policy decisions has shown abundantly that that the Governing Council's determination to act in a substantive manner was justified. We had all kinds of survey indicators. And now
maybe I need to do
some few, but some data showing further weakening of the economy. Just one number that I remember is the PMI in manufacturing is now at the lowest level since 2012. And another point of
Isn't this his last
observation
press conference? I think that he's stepping down. Yes, it is. I believe it
everybody
is.
uses to assess the resilience of the economy is to look at what extent the weakness in the manufacturing sector is actually spreading to the service sector. And until a month and a half,
Female
2
bot
months
still
ago,
down?
we could say the service
Cool.
sector was
Thanks.
fully resilient.
That you did.
And now
Yep,
we're
that's
seeing
it,
the
I think.
PMI in services
Hi,
also
Uzi.
declining sharply.
Can you reset the S-DOM if it doesn't
In,
matter for you?
I think it was
I'd like to see what
September
happens. I don't
reading.
have Jigsaw. I have
So,
Sierra.
and then
Want
we
to
have many
compare.
other indices pointing
Morning.
into that direction.
ZB Gunna C16.
Now,
And now I
regardless
have
of the
volume from the
German- of
speaker.
development in the
Love how he
Yeah.
says
I think
2%.
that the decisions taken
9
in
watching now.
September,
Please hit like.
fully
I wasn't
justify
paying
the
attention and though it was your
continuation of
elevator
an
music.
accommodative monetary policy
Who this
stance.
dude talking and how he
He's
going to
gonna
help
read
with
all of them
scalping?
now.
Maintaining
You're
of,
also on mute till
favorable
dude is done.
financing conditions
Test.
for the,
At
for
IQ
the
High Bud waving
non-financial
hand grinning face with big
corporations,
eyes.
companies, and
Sexy
small and
robot
medium-sized
voice. Please say good
enterprises.
morning, speculator Seth.
Now, the second point.
I would say depending on the instrument. Never
it's-
seen natural
it's
gas
quite
care
clear
about
the
ECB
central
or
banks hope
FOMC
to
lol.
continue to cooperate.
IMF will always mean
No
impossible
matter
mission
what
force
happens
and
in
or
other
Tom Cruise
parts
to
of
me.
our institutional
On his
system.
computer, you are present in front of the camera while on mine.
Cooperation
You
of
just
central
sat back
banks
down.
within their mandate,
Binaural
within their
beats might be
mandate
more persuasive than
is
elevator
essential.
music. Perhaps a little of
Fora
Tesla's
like
magic
G20
frequency beats.
or
Lol.
other multilateral
Speculator
fora
Seth, my
are
husband and I are
more
both watching on
important,
separate
more
channels.
essential than ever.
I only hear elevator music while he hears the conference speakers. Isn't this his last press conference? I think I read that he's stepping down.
Oh, we're screwed up there. It's asynchronous. Well, what?
Klaus Rajanic, ARD German Television. Mr. President, please allow me two rather personal questions on this particular day.
What happened was I
Peter Pratt once told me
queued
that
them all
when
in.
he and you are leaving, you both would prefer to have monetary policy back
Say
to
something
a kind
again.
of normality. We know that this unfortunately hasn't happened. Can you give us some insight? How do you feel about it, and whether you perhaps also feel that politicians could have helped you a little bit more? And the second question, please. We have read now in the last weeks a lot of reviews of your term in office and a lot of speculation. But I think what population would like to know is how you actually feel about this term. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you for your wishes. I think it's just one question, really. And well, first of all, let me just refer to Peter Pratt's words. It is true. Yes, so much so that
So it is.
2017, we gradually changed our.
I think we might.
Robot lady ignored me. Feels bad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Exit that stance of monetary policy. But
There's something else we need to
changed.
fix because it doesn't say the
And
names.
what prevails under everything else is the determination to pursue the mandate for which
I hate how this is
institution was
always on top.
created, and
I
we
fix
work
that?
for it. And therefore, we had to change course and get back into
Let's see
into
here.
the present
Settings.
stance. let me also add one thing, that if there is one take from the recent IMF meetings, is that the paradigm of reference, paradigm of reference has changed. Until not long ago, the IMF and all
maybe I did it with
observers
Aquasnap.
would say that yes, interest rates are low, and they may stay low for some time, but then they
If
will
this
go
selling
up.
keeps up, ZB is going to extend the range down
The
well.
sense of many discussions
Yeah.
at the IMF is actually that they will stay low.
Like I said, until he's done talking.
They will stay low for a long time because the real rate of interest is also
Which one is it?
And this implies that the exit from unconventional monetary policies is shifted in time, shifted forward in time. So
Settings.
the way I feel like someone who tried to comply with the mandate the best possible way. Thank you.
Mr. Arnold?
A couple of similar questions in the same kind of vein. First question is, what's your biggest regret, Mario? And the second one is, what advice are you giving to Christine Lagarde that you can tell us about anyway?
Well, I'm sorry, I can't answer either question. But saying that
doesn't do anything.
I always focus on things that can be done, not things that you can't change. And you can't change the past unless you are an historian.
But, on top.
So I focus on what's been done and assessed by facts. And here, the second question I'll answer immediately. No advice is
Settings.
given. She knows perfectly well what she has to do. And by the way, she has a long period of time ahead during which she will have to form her own view together with the Governing Council about what to do. But I'll stop here. This question is going to pop up again and again. How do you judge the past? So, if nobody's asking this question, I'll come back to you later.
Mr. Malin?
Jan Malin, Handelsblatt. Mr. Draghi, I have a question on the issuer limit. Many people think that the limit will be reached quite soon with the
I don't know how to change it,
especially for Germany.
Well, they're certainly moving on his comments, aren't they?
The ECB's calculations, this may not become a problem for an extended period of time. Could you maybe explain why the ECB's calculations
the setting there, and I'm just not seeing it. I wouldn't try and run off of what he's saying. I don't know. Anytime that I try and trade this, it screws me over. So
there's a more open discussion about the
Take my eyes off it for a split second. They are moving because your bot is down. Clearly.
0.35%.
Okay, well, I'm just going to minimize that.
A downturn hits. Do you think such a rule makes economic sense?
Not 24 was an easy call in ZB.
Thank you.
I should have been on
Thank
that.
you for that, and thank you for all the other questions over the last 8 years.
Thank you. Thank you. First, let me respond to the first question. That was raised because it's open-ended.
Hopefully restarting it won't cue everything back in.
When are you going to bump into these limits, and then what
Bot
happens?
that you did.
The
Bot female
answer
bot
is
still
Philip Lane
down?
is right.
Bodhi up, that's it, I
It's
think.
going to take quite a bit of time before this issue will realistically present itself as a problem. But all estimates, by the way, have to assume something about the issuance of bonds. And clearly there you make certain assumptions about what fiscal
It's a display problem.
Under reasonable assumptions, not extreme either way, there is enough time.
Let me fix a few things and then.
What I think I said in the last press conference, I don't see this problem coming up again anytime soon. So that's the answer. Different calculations may reflect different assumptions about issuance, so that's one part of the answer. The other part of the answer is that clearly these
it's going to be
limits,
in the message.
and I've said this again many times,
Was there
these limits are
C
specific,
message?
first of all, are self-imposed, and second, are specific to the contingency in which they were originally stated. So the ECJ has granted ample discretionary power within the mandate to the ECB. I think that is, finally, there is one other part to my answer. We have capital key rules in the way we purchase bonds. And the relevant key is the stock of capital. So even though we may observe deviations in terms of flows, it's the stock that we have to look at. And there, frankly, we don't foresee substantial material deviations in the aggregate in the months and years to come. Now, your second question, I'm afraid I can't answer. I would never dare to judge fiscal policies in one specific country. Thank you. And thank you very much for your kind words before. Thank you.
Mr. Stumpf?
I am José Stumpf from Expansión. You have been asked about something that you regret with no answer. Maybe you could tell us one thing that you are proud of. And another question.
Same thing.
I would like to go back to your famous London speech. After all, did the Euro bumblebee, as you call it then, graduated into a real bee?
Well, I think about the first question, I have the same answer. There isn't any specific.
Next, I need to do one more thing.
One general
No.
thing I'm proud of is the way in which the Governing Council and myself have constantly pursued our mandate. This is something we collectively should be very, very proud. And in a sense, now we can talk about legacy and all this later, but in a sense, this is part of our legacy. Never give up. Now, the second question is about the bumblebee. Now, that I should say, now I can't really answer this question because I was immediately, there was someone of great authority who said immediately that this was dubious biology. And so I would not really develop this concept any further. Thank you.
Mr. Lacour?
Jean-Philippe Lacour from Agence France Presse. After the former meeting in September, the governors Weidmann and Knot, they expressed very publicly how they felt with the decisions. And what was your reaction, or did you contact them to say, stop this cacophony, please? Or was it your duty then as president of ECB
display
to bring,
message
in this council back? So
display name.
You can say what was the flavor today of during the meeting. And the second question regarding maybe your future. The question was asked to your predecessor what you will do after being ECB president. Mr. Trichet said, I have 4 grandchildren and I want to take more care about them and I want to read some poetry. So can you tell maybe, do you want to share with us what you will do in the next future? Thank you.
Thank you. No, there was no reaction on my side. So there was no reaction at all. And today, as I said before, the discussion was basically supportive about the chief economist, about Philip Lane's proposal, of the Philip Lane's proposal. And as a matter of fact, some of the
Does anyone here trade more exotic markets? So if you go into our Discord, there's a couple of traders in the various rooms that do that. We've got some people that are trading volatility and farm stuff.
So one thing you can get out of this meeting, besides the various substantive issues being discussed, was a general sense that a general call to unity. On the next question, as you know, generally speaking, I don't
Was
have
that some...
set idea about that. But if you want more information, just ask my wife.
I don't know.
No.
That was kind of a weird move there.
Miss Edler?
I hope she does.
I hope so too. Anja Ettel from Welt and Welt am Sonntag. In March 2012, you got a so-called Prussian spiked helmet, a Pickelhaube. And what do you plan to do with it now that Bild Zeitung has claimed it back today? Will you leave it here? Will you take it with you? And really, how glad are you to finally leaving Germany and all those fierce critics behind you? And is there maybe one last thing you want to tell them, especially here, but maybe also with you to those former ECB council members who recently published a very negative memorandum on ECB policies? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, on the gift I received way back in 2012 in March, I think there is an old German saying that says, geschenkt ist geschenkt. So that is, I plan to keep it. The other issue, I think there is ultimately, it's the reality that speaks more strongly than any other voice. Okay. It's the reality together with the conviction that we did what we did always in pursuing our mandate. We never, and if anything, that's a distinctive thing. Very often criticisms address issues that really are not pertinent with our mandate. And we stayed firmly on this course, on pursuing our mandate. And that's the only thing I feel like saying today. Thank you.
Mr. Ferles?
Thank you. Tom Ferles from the Wall Street Journal. Just to follow up on this comment about the helmet that you're keeping. Oh, yes. Do you think that, I mean, clearly you do have a number of critics in Germany. Do you think you could
Oops, that was a simple syntax mistake.
Trying to address those criticisms in Germany, is that something
I think I've almost got it, everything all
Christine Lagarde could
squared away.
And a second question was about I suppose the political pressure on central banks, and also inversely the way that the ECB seems
so it is waiting 3 seconds between things.
I mean, does this suggest that in future there should be closer ties between governments and central banks or the ECB? Should it become more of a political actor, given that it's the Eurozone's main federal institution? Thank you.
So now, if I come over here to
the
this.
First question is about the political pressure, or?
Address criticism in German.
I'm sorry,
address criticism in German.
Okay, so now.
Oh, yes.
Let's come back over here and do some tests.
The question, because I have no answer to that. So
test.
No, I have no advice for Christine. She knows, as I said, she knows better than anybody else what to do.
That's not correct.
Now, on the second point, is there political pressure on central banks? True. You can actually see more political pressure in the last year than in many years before. But is it equally true for the ECB? Much less.
Display user.
I had occasional exchanges with this or that finance minister, but it never became anything comparable that you see in other countries today. So that's now. What's the relationship between ECB and governments now, especially at this time, in this instance? This question is quite important because, as I said last time, I repeat it today, monetary policy will continue to do its job. So don't think that monetary policy just relaxes and stops working. But it's quite clear that with fiscal policy, the objectives of monetary policy will be reached sooner and with less side effects. And the reason lies mostly in what I said before, being the real
Got the
rate, the
variable
natural rate of
wrong.
interest declining. That's where the space for fiscal policy comes in. So if one wants to see higher rates sooner, fiscal policy should be active. Although probably monetary policy will continue to be accommodative, even if
Oh, come on, what did I do
policy
wrong?
will become more expansionary in the early stages of this expansion, at least. So, given that that's the situation, that's probably going to stay like this for some time in the future. What is the relationship? In some of the speeches I gave, I spoke about, yes, central banks are independent, but they are independent in an interdependent world. So to the extent that fiscal policy, that an active fiscal policy doesn't prejudge the objective of price stability, there is no contradiction, there is no threat to the monetary dominance of the central bank. Thank you.
Mr. Hyten?
Luke Hyten, Market News. Mr. Draghi, my first question was on fiscal policy, again, I'm afraid. How confident are you that your pleas for greater fiscal policy action are actually being listened to?
It's display name.
In a timely fashion.
Display name.
Capitals. And do you have an idea of how much stimulus would be needed in the next couple of years in order to meet the ECB's inflation objective? And then secondly, with the UK, Japan and the US all doing their own QE programs in a public reverse auction format, and financial markets best practices moving to a greater level of transparency, why does the ECB continue doing its PSPP program in a primarily opaque fashion with minimal transparency?
Well, the answer to the second question was part of the design when the PSPP and was introduced years ago.
Maybe it's that.
And at that time, it was deemed that to follow the other channel, the reverse auction system, would not be proper, would not be suitable in this present situation in Europe, in the Eurozone. So it's a matter of
okay.
Special
What's wrong
policy
here?
reason, but it was very much a matter of technical convenience. On the first question, I don't want to make anticipations on whether fiscal policies will react sooner. Also, because the issue is far from being simple.
Live chat messages.
We said in the introductory statement that the countries with fiscal space should act, and countries without fiscal space should create the conditions for their automatic stabilizers to operate freely. Now, would that be, what does it mean exactly? Would there be stimulus which spills over outside the countries that actually undertake fiscal policy if they do so? How much of this would go into the countries that need this? And this is very much intertwined with the progress that the EMU, the Economic and Monetary Union, will make on designing a central fiscal capacity with genuine capacity to stabilize the economy over the cycle, which doesn't exist yet. So it's far from being a discussion like you might have in one country jurisdiction where the issue is whether expand the deficit today or not. It has to do with governance of the institution. By the way, the previous question I had about the debt break was asked about whether it makes sense.
Author details.
It's part of the same questions, really.
Display name.
In this part of the world, to have an active fiscal policy of the size that might be required. By the way, the present fiscal stance is mildly expansionary. But if a broader fiscal action were to be required, it's the governance issues which are Thank you.
Ms. Pira?
I had a lot of questions, but they were made. It's Mariangela Pira from Sky TG24. Nice to meet you in person.
Read message.
I've heard a lot about you, talking to economists. We journalists define you as Super Mario. But my question is, what are you taking with you, not as Super Mario, but as Mario Draghi, a person who had a very important job? What are you taking with you with this experience as a president of the ECB? And on a more personal note, my friends tell him that following monetary policy is boring.
Following monetary policy is boring.
It wasn't boring at all. I've learned a lot. Thank you.
That's funny.
Thank you. Thanks for the compliments. That's one of the most important things that all should attempt to be not boring.
Okay.
But
so, I think I'm almost there, folks.
No,
I think I'm almost there.
Really,
I'm going to close this window and open it back up again
certainly this experience has been
so that we can see that.
Intense, profound,
okay, and now we're going to open this.
I take this with me. Then how much of this will get into personal reflections is too early to say.
Okay, cool. I can see the name, and if I click read.
Undefined says test.
Thank you, Mr. Draghi. Tonia Mastroboni, La Repubblica.
Not quite there.
Try again the question about the future.
I'm very, very bad at getting...
Christine Lagarde what she would do after the IMF, and she told me I will be grandmother. It didn't exactly go like this. So I'd like to ask you if you would exclude any political rule in the future. For example, there is much
it's going to be over in here.
Discussion in Italy about you coming back as the president of the Republic in 2 years, or maybe any political role. And the second question is, Germany appointed a new member of the board now. It's Isabel Schnabel. And there are rumors about the fact that the government might have understood that its weakness to have lost so many members of the ECB in these years.
Undefined says
How do you view
test.
the fact that in the last, I think, 10 years, Germany has 3 German members of the board have stepped down? Is it weakness? Is it strength? Is it something that signalizes an anomaly in the ECB?
Thank you. But your first question is, I don't know. I said this many times, and much part of what I'm going to do next, as I said before, just ask my wife. She know better, I think.
Shouldn't ask my wife; she knows better. That's hilarious.
The second question: Isabel is an excellent economist, and she.
That's what I would probably say.
To do very
I don't know what I'm going to do now.
The discussions. Outside, inside the ECB,
okay.
Actively participating to the work of the ECB. So we should welcome her appointment very warmly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Miss Annunziata.
Okay.
Hello, Francesca Nava.
Undefined says, does it work now?
No, why?
I had some questions that have already been done. A recent survey by the Bank of America reveals that impotence and ineffectiveness of central banks, including European central banks, are the second risk perceived by investors. My question is, do you think that these investor concerns are justified? And in other words, is there a risk of financial bubble? Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you. But I'm sorry, you asked whether the expansionary monetary policies of central banks is the second largest risk. Yes. I can answer for the Eurozone. In the Eurozone, and that's a question we ask ourselves every day, many times a day, and we monitor, I'm saying this because we monitor the market developments very closely.
Undefined says, does it work now?
And we see some segments of financial markets where valuations are
that's all I got.
This is real estate, for example, and especially prime commercial real estate. Now, the causes of these overstretched valuations often don't lead directly to our monetary policies. For prime commercial real estate is the action of international investors that are investing heavily in that. For real estate, certainly the low interest rates are important. However, when we go and look at how the mortgage market is actually behaving, in other words, there has been a spike in mortgage lending, We don't see that. We see some increase in mortgage lending in the new mortgages. But overall, if you take the aggregate figures, still they really show a solid expansion, but nothing. So we may have other sectors, but frankly, all in all, we don't see bubbles. And when we see some bubbles, they are local bubbles that should be, for example, some segments of the bond market, the high yield, the leveraged bond market, which, by the way, is not a big issue in Europe. It's more of a big issue in other jurisdictions. But we have to make sure that our banks don't invest into this market as they used to do before the financial crisis, where they bought lots of stuff that then didn't perform well. So for that, the remedies, the answers for many of these sort of potential local bubbles are macroprudential
Maybe
policies,
it's in the message
supervisory
object.
policies.
Maybe it's in the message object.
The other important issue is that much of this
it is in the message
danger,
object.
Much of this risk, much of this search for yields happens in the non-banking sector, and more specifically in the so-called shadow banking sector. And unfortunately the perimeter of macroprudential policies does not include that sector.
Okay.
So we have some visibility, pretty good visibility into what happens in the banking sector, which, by the way, still is about 80% of credit intermediation in this part of the world. But we don't have much visibility for the rest of the financial sector. I mean, I'm talking for the non-banks, so for the shadow banking sector.
Speculator Seth says test.
There we go. That's what I wanted.
Well, first of all, just wanted to say thank you for your candor and composure over the years and patience with all of our questions. So last question.
Something about that in a moment.
Now that we got all that out of the way,
Go ahead.
hopefully here,
center of a debt crisis,
we're not running up against the limitation in the.
And a couple of weeks ago, Greece sold short-term debt at a negative yield. Do you see that as a success or a risk? And then second question, if there's one thing you could fix about the way that the Eurozone functions, what would that be? Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
I'm only getting messages every 3 seconds.
Clearly success. And it's a success of, first and foremost, of Greece, of the policies that the Greek governments have undertaken together with the Eurozone solidarity and, under the advice of the IMF, the ESM, for the limited extent the ECB. As far as the banking and financial sector is concerned, the ECB as well. But the main efforts been done by the governments and by the Greek citizens that certainly had to pay a very.
How does the new keyboard sound, guys? Is it quieter to you guys? Because when I look at my volume meter, it still sounds pretty loud. I guess it is pretty close to the microphone, and the microphone is connected to the desk.
This is a success.
Shock mount would maybe
it's
help
also, in a sense,
in there,
risk
but
if these policies are not continued. But we see all the developments there in Greece basically targeted to
Michael X says sounds muffled.
These policies. So
yeah,
it's a good time
it's got.
And it's frankly,
I got a new keyboard and it has silenced red switches in it. So the switches have like rubber, and so you still hear the sound of an impact, but it's very much deadened.
But in fact, some historical perspective.
It's not a sharp sound, at least.
Countries and governments is very important. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you had a second question about what to fix in the Eurozone. Right. Sorry. There is one thing that all the successful monetary unions have, and that's a central fiscal capacity. In other words, whether this should be a budget or should be a system of insurance. And so it's very important to have something of that nature, of an adequate size, something that can be used counter-cyclically, something that basically would take care of the fact that national fiscal policies
Turkey's Ed Rogan says of Kurdish...
Knesset says really kicking myself over that 24.
Really? I won't
needs
worry
to
about it,
have
dude.
central fiscal capacity.
I mean,
And of course, this
the
should be
chances
designed
that
in a way that
he
Lucy
had...
Knesset says that would have been a done day.
Yeah, that's true.
that's the main-
But I mean, the chances that they had gone up and had completely reversed and gone lower or something off of what he says, you know.
is the risk.
Actually, it's nice now that it's higher because I think that the pressure is probably still going to be to the downside, potentially. Wow, they've actually traded some decent numbers on here, haven't they?
I think that's I think the main thing.
Some big buying down here at the 26.5 area.
Uzi Knesset says, I mean, none of that matters. It was a low-risk buy. 2 to 3 ticks max.
Maybe. Man, anytime that I try and take trades during the press conferences, I get screwed over, man. Or I'll be in it. Usually what happens is I'll be in it and I'll be waiting and then he'll say something and they'll kill it.
So even though I've been central bank governor before,
Like I'd be in it and I'd have 10 ticks and be like, hey, we can just go up. And then he'll say something and good dish.
presidency of Mr. Trichet, the quality of our deliberations is so much, owes so much.
Uzi Knesset says, bah, I don't do the superstition thing. I make the trade and it either works or it doesn't law.
Well, that's not a superstition. It's just saying that my read and the order flow doesn't matter when he's talking because whatever he says can cancel out any kind of signal that I see.
And it's the main ingredient in the success of these.
Just like you don't trade during news. I say you don't trade during the central bank press
It's the
conferences.
main ingredient in the big changes that the ECB had in the past.
Especially not the Fed. The ECB one's maybe not as big of quite as big of a deal, but definitely when the Fed is speaking, it's
Final question to Jana Randall.
ugh.
Jana Randall with Bloomberg. Mr. Draghi, you have been widely credited with saving the euro with 3 very simple words at a time when
Uzi Knesset says I'd trade during news if the liquidity hung around, lol. There's been ample
Sure,
liquidity for
okay.
this guy's ramblings, haha.
You only just don't like when the liquidity
widely
pulling.
criticized across the region. And there is a risk that one day one country might decide that the euro is not irreversible and will decide to leave. Have you paid too little attention?
So what's going on here in the
to the
evening?
public, to the people behind or beyond financial markets? And I have a second question for you, and I would like to read something to you. It's from a speech that Jörg Asmussen, a former
Uzi
executive
Knesset
board
says this
member,
lady looks like my
gave
wife's
in,
mom bletched.
late 2013. He said, Italy is too big to be rescued from the outside. It has to make the turnaround on its own. Its fate will critically determine the fate of the euro area. In this sense, the future of the euro area will not be decided in
get rid of
Paris
some
or
of
Berlin
my
or in Frankfurt or in Brussels. It will be decided in Rome.
got some messages now.
What do you think of this statement, and do you
So
think
don't
that
need
Italy
that.
will ever fix itself?
Thank you. When was he saying that?
It was in late 2013 in Milan, a speech in Milan.
Exactly. He was absolutely right. And would you say the same thing today?
I'm asking you.
No, I mean, just of course not. Things have changed completely, and frankly, everybody now in Italy said and stated that the euro is irreversible. And so, while there may have been sort of hypothetical doubts in one part of the
volume is interesting how it all sold and now it's almost all bought back up.
So it's been accepted. Also, you see, it's
You know
part
what?
of the normal Eurozone
There's something big going on under those scenes because
You said that the
somebody really big was selling yesterday, but somebody really big is buying too. I think it's mostly just demand from the Fed buying like $2 billion worth and everything. But yeah.
But the point is that at the same time, the popularity of the euro has never been so high. So what's happening in Italy is actually where the euro popularity had gone up. It's also part of the general phenomenon. On your first question, that's an important question.
Uzi Knesset says Fed's still doing repo crap?
As much as one can.
Yes, but today they didn't take all of the bids. There was like 60 billion worth of bids and they only took 45 billion of it.
And one should never be tired of doing it.
Which I'm not quite sure what to make of that. I guess that means that there's still a liquidity shortage.
Many things are better here than they are in other jurisdictions.
But that's where I say it gets weird because it's like, okay, shouldn't that mean that the banks should be out there trying to buy treasuries as much as they can?
Namely, to reach to the public of 19 different countries.
And yet, the past 2 weeks we've been kind of slowly down.
Central banks are key for communication. And they can do, and they do, much more, in a sense, than a single president or board members can do, because it's a constant communication. So in this sense, it's very important what you said. There is one other aspect I would just dwell a moment. The natural counterpart of central bankers are the ones who have to implement the monetary policy decisions. And they are naturally the banks and the financial markets and other financial intermediaries. At the same time, the independence of a central bank is also based on the support that it enjoys. And therefore, what happened in communication by central banks over the last 10, 15 years is a complete transformation.
See what the E-mini seems to be selling pretty hard. As there's some earnings coming out right now, it'd have to be something along those lines.
If you have understood me, you are stupid. Nobody would say that today. We all strive for transparency, and as you just thank you for having said that, for candor. So that has changed. But would we be naturally speaking to the large public? One has to be cautious about that, because as soon as you change your audience, you change your language, and you naturally step into
Donald Trump retweeted that whole "Don't hurt them, please" thing.
So yes to an open, broader communication, certainly, but it should be done with caution. Thank you.
That's it. Oh, he went over. They cut it. They cut the feed really quickly there. Normally we get to watch him walk off and everything. Okay, well. That's weird. Why is my ZN over there? So is there nothing behind this? Yeah, no, there's not. Hold on a second. Jigsaw is like doing some weird stuff. Okay. Dun dun dun. Okay. Ooh, Bitcoin is still pretty ugly. But not much activity since yesterday over there. Okay, but now we can see the E-mini. Okay, so the E-mini opened up, and so far they've been selling. And we're getting a push up in the treasuries. There appears to be some retail traders fading this. Is this all of this since they opened? It is. I would wait for a big guy. Yeah, we'll wait for a big guy.
Uzi Knesset says screen lol.
Oh, right. Well, there are icebergs on both sides of that at 30. Let's see here. Yesterday we got down all the way to 04.5, right? Or 24.5. We're above that. 30 is where we were kind of stuck and I took my short from. Think. It was around there. And there's been some big iceberging there in that area before.
Uzi Knesset says if ZB breaks the high, looking to 60, 17 first, then 22 to 23 for targets.
If CB breaks the high? Well, it's giving me a hint that they might turn down. Alligator seems to think more upside today. There's all this activity here.
Uzi Knesset says good spot for a low risk short. Might get tagged though.
Well, we're seeing a spike. Spike doesn't automatically mean reversal. I mean, in this kind of context, you guys are all looking long and the E-mini is getting a little ugly. I don't know how far the E-mini can fall or if it's going to be a down day today. I'm not seeing anything suggesting that there was like really bad earnings. I see stocks rise after Microsoft and Tesla earnings. U.S. durable goods orders fall 1.1% in September. Oh, sorry, we didn't really pay attention to all those numbers, did we? Okay, so core durable goods negative spot 3 versus an expected spot 2, and durable goods negative spot 1 negative 1 spot 1 versus an expected negative spot 5. The core number is excluding transportation items. So that number isn't as bad as it appears. And unemployment claims was slightly better than expected at 212 versus 216. $8K now. It's a spike in an iceberg. Let's say the DOM activity isn't like crazy or anything. The 5-year has that bid at 31.5. If that bid at 31.5 goes, then we're going to have that reversal. And at the moment, it looks like the pressure favors the buy side. The signal favors to the downside, but it's only a 60-40 thing, and we haven't had a real breakout in a while. So I wouldn't be surprised to see really see them bust this 30.5, you know? And if they do, then it could be off to the races, you know? I think what we could say is we could put like a stop limit here. That way, if they do get through and they really go, we might get back in on the limit on the other side. I doubt that this will stop in, but okay. So oh no, still not quite. I thought they were going to hold that bid there at 30.5 for a second, but those big icebergs, man. Nope. The E-minis a buy-in. Now notice that it is the offers again. Ooh. Those big stacks were all right on the inside. Oh, this is interesting. I have never seen action anything like this. I've seen moves where the buyers just keep coming in and it gets crazy. But to see it range bound and in an area like this, I don't think I've ever seen anything
Uzi
like
Knesset
this.
says pulling a bit for 945 news.
Yeah, there were, well, they did pull a little bit, didn't they? But I think they're back now. What was, I wonder why I didn't get that before. Was Flash Manufacturing PMI 51.5 versus an expected 50.7. Services PMI in line with expectations at 51.0.
Says, well, they pulled more back when I said it 3 minutes ago, lol.
Oh. Wait, you said that 3 minutes ago? It says that I have exceeded my quota now. But I think it may be the case. Well, I was maybe sending a lot of messages at the start, though. I don't know. That's weird. That's way weird. Okay. This is ready to pop. Well, I wish I had not taken my eyes off of it because I was ready to buy it. What's with the E-mini, man? It looks like the trade is already over and it's coming back on itself. 130. Certainly some bids. Actually, bids pulled, though. That's odd. It looks like there might have been a little bit of an exhaustion there in ES. So this comes the level break one now. Well, 5 years certainly shot up there, didn't they? Iceberg at 130 even. Not surprising. I mean, none of that matters. It was a low risk buy, 2 to 3 ticks. Nice. I'm mad that the robot already stopping. And I'm wondering, one request must be worth more than one. One request must be worth 3 points or something. Okay, down tick. Huh. He's squeezing now.
Block buy.
Crazy, guys. This is really crazy. I mean, I would like to be long, but I don't want to get in over in this spot where they're fighting like that. That's wild. Maybe it would be better if we had a short in the E-mini. Yeah, this is crazy. I don't know if I can make a trade. To me, the level 2 activity is not unusually high, but the amount of volume that we're trading is. And since it's all coming from icebergs, that makes it very difficult for us to know where it's going to come from. And I have to say, it's just an awful lot of volume buying. You know, it's just a lot. There's just a lot there, and they're going to have to pull back a little bit. And then it's like, who's selling that much? It's crazy. Well, it could be a short. Jeez. Now they're pulling out the robots to help them sell it. Are they spreading? Maybe. No, I'm not seeing it. No, it's the 5. It's the 10 and the 30. They're going short the knob. Down. That could mean higher. Well, look there, they're pushing it again. Sky News reporter suggests rumor that the UK government is to call a general election on Monday. I hate how this slow drops without real pullbacks, and yes, I can't trade that. Not if you didn't get in at the open. I guess they got a little bit of a pullback there around, what, 10? 30, 10 or so. The Treasuries seem super triggered, like somebody's definitely selling this. And then they're buying it crazy and overcoming him. And they have the E-mini in their favor. I mean, the E-mini is not quite, well, so far, I mean, it's a pretty decent sell, and they did break the overnight low, but we're still above yesterday's levels. So there could be a lot more in it. Well, now they're doing level break type behavior. Like that. Guess not. Really? They're pushing it up in the 10, but the 5's not going. How much are they willing to do? Can we get on now with all-time highs as a bigger miss? That's funny. Still not a strong bid, and the 5 years still not going. They're pressuring it a little bit better. The 30 years not ticking up. If the 30-year ticked up there and held a bid, then I think that the 5 would have to go. Okay, now somebody's hitting into 05 in the 10. I'm getting supporting behavior again. Okay. 5-year finally ticked up. Oh, 05 goes bid again without much issue. Was there news just now? Was there news scheduled for this time? Because why is it acting like... Okay, new home sales. Did not realize. 701 versus expected 710, so less than expected. Okay, I'm getting a lot of flickering now. Five years still kind of saying they're not sure they want to hold that. Kevin says at least a pullback to VWAP. Well, seems to be a watching day. Maybe NG after the news will give me a trade. Could be. I don't know. I mean, these treasuries might pop here. Wow, they just hit 1,000 at 05? That's super aggressive. He must really think that he's got them on the ropes. But I wonder why he's only doing it in the 10-year. You know? Okay. Well, now they're hitting into 01. Almost clearing it. And the E-mini is selling again. About to break 3,000 here. And there we get a tick. Okay. Well, so it took 3,000 to clear 01. No, I thought it was a level break there. But they just kind of slowly bubbled through it. That means that there could be stops further up. Yeah, doesn't look like the seller giving up though. Dollar getting a boost after PMI data. Yeah, 015 isn't reacting much at all. And 01 and a quarter in the 5-year. They're trading quite okay, so now he's stacking. Now he's stacking on the bid at 01 in the 5-year and trying to pressure it through in the 5-year. E-mini is still in consolidation as far as I'm concerned. That does not look like consolidation to me. That looks to me like they're scared of something. All of a sudden they are in hardcore risk off mode. Some earnings that we saw that's not being widely reported or something like that. And the treasuries are acting like the world is on fire. But there is some crazy disagreement in the treasuries. So far, the buyers have been winning, but there is somebody selling this, holding it back. Look, they just bought 26 there. So there was a 2K buy hit 015. And look at the stacking behind us in the 5-year. 005, 007, 010. They stacked when they went through it. This is extremely strong trending behavior that we're seeing here. But they're not pushing. I mean, look, so now somebody's selling 4,000. There weren't big orders in that though. Okay, so the 5-year ticks up. Okay. So they busted through the iceberg that was at 01. Well, they're holding 130 so far. Now we're kind of on the bottom. So it's just quiet. Okay. E-mini did take a little bit of a breather there. Could be part of it. Hi, how do you advise analysis can take you so far because it was just trading DAX and it showed every sign oversold, and you know what? German manufacturing PMI down, but still they pushed price the opposite way. There's something crazy going on in the markets for sure, and I'm not quite sure. So the thing is when we see two big players, you know, how do you know which one's going to win? You can try going with the momentum, and I think right now the momentum is still up, but I don't know. Yeah, bro, they pushed up. This buyer's still not... It kind of seems to me like the buyer is still in control of this. I could be wrong, but... The problem, though, is that on the pullback, they came back further than they should have for like what is just a normal pullback, you know? And the 5 years still seems to not want to buy here. That's another problem we've got. Okay. Cumulative delta is crazy long, though. Okay. And an uptick. It's curious still that that they're moving it in the 10-year. How many times have we ticked up in the 10-year and then been waiting for the 5-year to come along? Okay. So there's the 5-year did come along. Well, it's really hard to say because, like I said, there's some big guys in there, but the pressure, the buyers still appear to be in control. We had to come down. It was quite quick, but then when we came down here, no activity. So that kind of looked to me like some manipulation to try and get some fills lower and kind of shake some people around. And there's just not that many people interested in selling it down there. But it's still a question of will the 5 and the 30 come along. So see the 10-year tick up again, the 30 still isn't coming. Seems like that 30 is going to lag because the knob spread is starting to point up. The knob spread is pointing up. I don't know why the FYT is not. That's a little unusual. Okay. Okay, now the 5 is starting to hit it aggressively. That might have been some stops. The E-mini's creeping down again. Okay. Well, now one more uptick in the 30-year and we're lined up for a big break maybe. Okay. Notice how as we're pushing up here, we get up to this area, a lot more inside activity. Yeah, ZBYH 160 to 21 area. That's a yearly high? Is that what you're saying? No. What does YH mean, IQ? Oh, yesterday's high. Yes. Okay, I gotcha. 160.21. Well, Uzi was looking for 17 first and then 22 to 23. We're almost 217. There's still some profit taking and so forth up here. The 30 years still not hitting into 16. Some level break activity at 01 now. And as a reminder, when I say level break, what I mean is absorption on the bid just below the high. When do you move your stop? So I don't move it when I should, for one thing. But if I get a good move and I say, okay, yeah, they really broke there, then I should move it. But at the same time, if I get a move like that, I might think, depending on how it plays out, I might say, okay, taking my profits. Yes, quite logical. P-Mine in play for steepening and stirs for uptrend, says Alligator, talking about the spread, the knob spread steepening. Okay, so there's some, so there they pushed it. Now what are they going to do with O2? Just trying to pressure them out. I know everyone trades differently, but I often move it to break even when it moves in my direction, usually after 8 ticks on ES and 10 CL, especially when I'm buying at the high of the day. Yeah, well, like another way would be like if I got 4 ticks, I should probably move it, right? But the thing is that this is really more of like an emergency stop. Sometimes it doesn't always work that way when we start to push really big, really big ranges like we were. But okay, so that bid at 015 was stacking a little bit. They're kind of pumping. They're trying to squeeze guys out so far. I think they probably have more than enough people caught on this to be able to push it further through those offers at 02. But and there's a big iceberg there again at 01.5. So there was one at 01 and now there's a big one at 01.5. That's curious. I mean, if we hold a bid at 01.5 again, it looks like they're fighting it though. And the 5-year is definitely fighting. Look at the volume. Look at the offers above us in the 5-year now. The 5-year has a lot of interest. There's a lot more liquidity on that than normal. Seeing thousands now at multiple prices. Nope, they take L1. It is very curious to me how they fight. I've seen it fight before, but not quite like this. Always something new to see. Okay. I don't know if the buyer is in as much control as they were before. Somebody's really trying to, like, that seller seems insistent now. He's stacking it all one and everything. And the E-mini is kind of doing who knows what. Okay. Well, I might have just been scared out, but no harm done. So I only got 3 out of that. It actually says MFE of 2. Well, I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to get in when it was like at 129. The Federal Reserve is derelict in its duties if it doesn't lower the rate and even ideally stimulate. Take a look around at the world at our competitors. Germany and others are actually getting paid to borrow money. The Fed was way too fast to raise and way too slow to cut. Wrong. They were way too slow to raise. They could have raised earlier. They were definitely too slow to cut, though. Well, I think this is still a buy, but I'm running out of time to trade it, and it's just not quite, the right setup, I guess it would have gotten filled right there. No issue, quite good at bare spot. Good place and time. Let's see if the tape can balance. Okay, 130 goes offer. Well, here's the thing. If it doesn't follow through, if they start pushing the downside, maybe those sellers puke. Oh, Escarejo says, "Are you filtering messages?" No, I just it says I've already reached my quota. Let's go look at it again. So I'm not doing it one message per second. Console. See, for the third day in a row, after 9,000 messages, it says. And if I come over here into metrics, look at that. Live messages, it says that I am doing 0.6 per second. Which is correct, because I was doing it once every 3 seconds. So, starting there at 7 o'clock or so, and then going for about an hour. Divided by 60. No, 3,600. 2.77778. The message must be worth 3. Part, response, properties, errors, forbidden, disabled, rate limit exceeded. Now they're hitting into 31.5. Quote a calculator. Channels, categories, playlists, search, subscriptions, videos. It doesn't give us. Why is it not? Units. Now they're heading into 31.5. This might be failing. Well, it might not be failing, but they might balance here. But it looks like I was correct to get out of that trade. Like it should go, and if it doesn't, then you get out. No harm done. I would have been a good trade if I had gotten in at the 29 area, though, huh? So when I saw that, I was like, they're going. Donald Trump tweeting about this scam. See, how come it doesn't show up in the videos, cost, snippet, content details? Live chat messages, list, cost. It is not documented yet, but the quota cost is 20 just to retrieve the endpoint. When requesting part, it's +0 for ID, +1 for snippet, and +1 for author details, making it 22 total for everything you may want from the endpoint. In my testing, it appears the current cost of light chat messages endpoints is a base of 6 units. So if I did 3,600 messages times 6, nah, that can't be right. It must be like 4 or something like that. But I was doing 3,600 divided by 3, actually. So 1,200 times 6. That's still not. Eight. Problem is I'm retrieving everything. I think. Get chat. Chat part. ID, snippet, author details. Okay. So I am only getting part. Part equals ID. The part parameter specifies the live chat message resource parts that the API response will include. Its supported values are ID, snippet, and author details. Man, another strong tick down that time. They're really killing it. I think it's China. What do you guys think? I think that's China. How much was it through there? After about what about was the time that we want to see? After 8. Sure. So from 8 o'clock, 16,000 and another 10,000. 26,000 contracts versus 30. Wow. Boom, boom, boom. I can't believe that we had all of that and then they didn't go through. That's pretty insane. That was just really weird. If Labour Party goes into an election with 100 of its MPs having voted against it, how on earth does Corbyn tell the public to back him when 100 of his MPs won't? Anna Turry tells me she won't vote for an election even if instructed by Corbyn, and she thinks 100 of other Labour MPs will do the same. Okay. Weird. Well, support. I'm going to need to talk to them. Guaranteed unanswered. Sort by most votes. How do you use the download streams? Let's just try cost in here. What is the quota cost? That was the one I just read. Newest. Okay, so here was somebody asked me in February. He says it's 6. He says it's 8. It's 8. Why is it 8? That's retarded. Okay, so if it's 8, then how much cost per unit? What does the unit cost on the data API mean? Is it a currency? It is explained right here. Bum. Okay, well, they made it down to at least 30. It still doesn't look to me like that there's that much interest in selling it, though. In fact, it might turn here at 30.5. I might be able to buy it, although I'm going to have to go here in a second, so I shouldn't. That did not answer the question. Doesn't cost money. The quota is there so that people don't abuse the API. If it doesn't cost, then what should we do if it exceeds the quota? How much am I paying per month then? How does that? Well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, so for starters, Now we should generate our charts, by the way. Okay, let's do this over here. All right, well, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to do it. If there's anything else to talk about. I kind of want to see how this goes. It looks like it might flip, but I should get going. So I will catch you guys tomorrow. We took one trade. We had to scratch it. I don't know what the deal is. Okay, well, anyways, guys. Hope to see you then. And in the meantime, stay profitable.